Hello and welcome to the webinar for the Washington Paid Family and Medical Leave. This is Dave Maddock here to go through a quick overview of this new program coming to Washington. Quick overview about this. It's a new program starting in 2020. Washington will be the 5th state in the nation to offer paid family and medical leave benefits to workers. While the actual benefits kick in 2020, the premium deductions and payments and reporting will start January 1, 2019. This new state-run insurance program will be administered by the Employment Security Department. The insurance program will allow covered workers to be paid up to 12, 16, or even 18 weeks per year, depending on their situation. As I mentioned, the premium assessments will begin in 2019, and the insurance benefits will start being available in 2020. A quick disclaimer, Maddock Associates, we're not tax accountants or payroll experts. We're employee benefits brokers. This presentation is informational only and not tax advice. Each company has different facts and circumstances which may not be addressed in this presentation. So make sure to consult a tax accountant or payroll company before filing with the state. So a little bit about Maddock Associates. We're independent brokers. We work for our clients, not the insurance company. Been in business for about 45 years, headquartered in Tacoma, Washington. Our focus is on personalized service for companies. We help resolve claims issues for employee benefits, answer questions, educate our employees and employers on how to use the plans effectively, do an excellent job at negotiating the best price with all the different insurance plans and association plans, and advise employers on employee benefit laws, rules, and regulations. So the agenda, Maddock Associates, next thing we're going to talk about is who qualifies for the benefits. So to qualify for the benefits, employees must be working in Washington. They must work 820 hours in a qualifying period for any employer. That's not just your company, but all hours worked for any employer in Washington will count. The qualifying period will be the first 4 of the last 5 completed calendar years or quarters prior to the leave. Employers will need to report hours to the state so that the state can track eligibility of employees moving from one employer to another and for employees who work for multiple employers. So what are the benefits? The benefits, which actually will kick in 2020, so if somebody gets disabled 2020, this will be the benefits. The benefits will start after 7 days of disability, excluding child bonding. Child bonding can kick in earlier. The benefit is generally available for up to 12 weeks for caring for family members, bonding with a child, or for the employee's own medical condition. There's a maximum of 16 weeks available for people who need to use the benefit for both medical leave and family leave. And the maximum of 18 weeks is available for pregnancy complications. So basically, it's generally 12 weeks of leave, but you can use it for both medical and family, and then, but not more than 16 weeks. And then there's some exceptions for pregnancy complications that could extend the leave up to 18 weeks. So the way the benefits are calculated is a little bit different. If you're used to working with disability plans, it's a complicated formula. I'll explain it here. The benefits are calculated and paid weekly. So the maximum benefit is going to be $1,000 per week. The exact benefit is based on the employee's total wages paid during the 2 highest paid calendar quarters during the qualifying period, which is the first 4 of the last 5 quarters divided by 26, rounded down to the nearest whole dollar. And then Washington State average weekly wage is $1,190. So I'll explain, but the benefit's going to be a factor of Washington State's average weekly wage. So the way that benefits are actually calculated, what you do is for employees making less than half the state's average weekly wage, which is $595, the employee is going to receive 90% of the average weekly wage. For employees making more than half the state's average weekly wage, then what you do is you take 90% of the employee's average weekly wage, capped at half the state's average weekly wage, and then you take 50% of the employee's average weekly wage that is above half of the state's average weekly wage. You add those two together, and if it's under $1,000, that's what they'll get. That's what the benefit will be. If that total goes over 1,000, then they're at the cap and they just get the 1,000. It's my understanding the state will be the one that actually calculates this, but employees might come to you asking, what the benefit looks like and what it might be. So this is kind of a way for you to help explain to employees what the benefit looks like. What I did here, I think this makes a lot more sense, is I just did some examples showing annual incomes and just showing what the weekly income would be, and then the benefit, and then the replacement ratio. So the people that are making half the average wage, as I mentioned there, they're going to get the 90% income replacement. So that's very good. So their normal weekly income is $540. They're going to get $486. And then as the wages go up from there, then it starts to become less than 90%. So somebody making $56,000 is going to get about 70% income replacement, which is excellent. Most short-term disability policies pay around 60% income replacement. So that's very good. $80,000, they're going to get 64% income replacement, which is quite good. And then right around $104,000, that's where they're basically going to hit that cap of $1,000 benefit. And that's going to be 50% income replacement. And then as people make more than $104,000, then they're at the cap, and then obviously that percentage income replacement just goes down and down and down. So anyway, this is a great benefit, particularly for the lower income, very high income replacement. And then as you go higher in income, you might hit that cap, but you'll still get the $1,000 a week regardless. So there's also some job protection requirements in this law, and it's for companies with over 50 employees. So you have to offer job protection, meaning like if someone goes out on leave, you have to guarantee that when they come back, they can have a job back, as long as they work for the employer 12 months or longer, and they worked for the employer 1,250 hours the year prior to the leave. Job protection can be denied in some situations among when you're among the highest paid 10% of the employees within a 75-mile radius. So essentially, the denial is necessary to prevent substantial and grievous economic injury to the employers, to the operations of the employer. So I guess what they're saying is if you have a really key employee, you might be able to hire a replacement. This is kind of what this part of the law was about. So the employer needs to notify the employee of the intent of the employer to deny restoration on such basis at the time the employer determines that the injury would occur and the leave has commenced and the employee elects not to return to the employment after receiving the notice. So getting into how the benefits are paid, or how the benefits are paid for. So getting into the premium. So employees, it's important to understand how they count employees. So if you're over 50 employees, the company will have to pay a portion of the premium. Companies under 50 employees are not required to pay a portion of the premium. So they're going to count the employees every year on September 30th. And the Employment Security Department is going to be doing that. The count is based on the average number of employees reported by an employer over the last 4 completed calendar quarters. And it's a head count, not a full-time equivalent calculation. So in employee benefits, there's tons of different ways to count employees. This is just going to be a straight head count. So it doesn't really matter how many hours the employee worked for you. If they work for you, then they're going to count as an employee. And the employer size will determine whether the employer has to pay and if the employer can qualify for some grants. So the total premium is set at 0.4% of employee wages up to the Social Security wage cap, which is $128,400 in 2018. So employers with over 50 employees will be required to pay 37% of the total premium. Employers with under 50 employees are not going to be required to pay the employer portion of the premium. The premium is actually broken into 2 pieces. 1/3 of it goes to family leave, and 2/3 of it goes to sick leave. When you read the details of the law, the large employers are required to pay 55% of the sick leave and 0% of the family leave, which ends up being 0.147% of wages up to Social Security cap. That 0.147 is going to be the 37% of the 0.4% total premium. So there's been some confusion on this. If the employer is under 50 employees, they're not required to pay the 37%. They're not required to pull that out of the employee's check either. So the employee's portion is going to be 63%, regardless of whether they're working for a large employer or a small employer. So here's a breakdown of what the premiums are going to look like. So the annual, based on the same annual income figures we were looking at before. So here I've got the total premium. I've got the portion for medical leave, portion for family leave, the employer share, and the employee share. So keep in mind, if the employer is under 50 employees, then they don't have to pay the employer share. The employee will always have to pay the employee share. And then employers over 50 employees will have to pay the employer share. So in total, we're looking at premiums. Average income is $80,000, about $26, and these are monthly premiums. And of that, the employee would pay about $17. The employer, if you're over 50, would have to pay about $10 an employee. So getting into the implementation timeline. So January 1, 2019 is when you're going to have to start reporting and paying premiums. Premiums and reporting are due quarterly by the end of the quarter, by the end of the month following the quarter. So the first premiums are going to be due and reporting April 30th. So that's for the first quarter. And you can see the other due dates down below. Employers will use the secureaccess.wa.gov website to report. And the reporting tools and mechanisms are still under development. We've had a lot of questions like how exactly are we going to be reporting? And what we recommend is staying tuned to the state's website to get that information. So one question a lot of people have is how will these plans work with existing medical policy? So in the law, they created a way that employers could actually opt out of the state plan if the employer offers the same or greater duration of leave as the state plan, equal or better wage replacement, and they charge or withhold the same or less from an employee's paycheck, and they cover the same events as the state plan. The employers who offer voluntary plans. So if you're able to find a plan that meets all these requirements, then you could submit an application to waive off the state plan. And to do that, you have to pay $250 and submit for approval and get approved prior to 2019. And what you also need to do is set up a trust to hold the employee's premium payments. So you're going to actually have to set up a trust for all the money you collect from the employees. And if the employer ever terminates the plan, you're going to have to return that money to the state, less the money that was paid out in costs. The employers can set up a voluntary plan to cover medical leave, family leave, or both. Currently, there's no insurance carriers offering family leave coverage, and the disability carriers are determining whether they want to offer voluntary plans to replace these plans or just market plans that supplement the state plan. So what we found is when this law first came out, we were thinking that we might be able to sell a lot of voluntary plans to replace this. But the way that the state set up these plans, particularly with it covering 90% of income replacement for low-wage workers and allowing minimum hours down to 15, we're finding that there really aren't any plans on the market right now that are available to directly replace these plans. Plus, it's very rare, if at all, non-existent to find plans that insure family leave. So right now, the voluntary options are not really applicable or available to small groups because the insurance carriers just don't have the products developed to replace the state. Plus, when we look at the premiums, they're relatively low for the state, primarily because the state's going to be able to pool everybody, and also they're going to be collecting a full year of premium before they start paying any benefits. So, so for right now, it's really looking like most people are just going to go ahead with the state plan versus trying to do a voluntary plan. In the future, that might change, particularly if the state's premiums go up. So then also what I like to mention is anybody that has short-term disability, starting 2020, January, or prior to January 1, 2020, is really going to have to evaluate their current short-term disability policy and determine whether or not, or how it's going to work with the state plan, or really whether or not it's even something you want to keep. So, most disability plans will offset for the state plan. So essentially, if you had a disability plan that paid $1,000 and then the state plan pays $1,000, a lot of times the disability plan wouldn't pay because the state's already paying. So obviously, if you had a plan like that, you'd want to either terminate that plan or adjust that plan to maybe cover after $1,000 or work around the state plan. So in that case, maybe you took your plan that was going to pay $1,000 and you would modify it to say, hey, well, the state's going to pay the first $1,000 and then this will pay above and beyond that, maybe for higher income workers. So either way, definitely prior to 2020, we'll definitely need to look at any short-term disability policies and either get them to reduce the premium drastically, knowing that the state's going to be paying first and the disability policy would be paying secondary to it, or maybe even potentially dropping the policy or modifying the policy to be more of a long-term disability policy that might kick in after the state plan stops. So kind of wrapping up in conclusion, where to get more information. The state's got a great website. It's listed right here, and it's also going to be linked below in the description. And on that website, it's got all the information about this program. Also, there's a link to sign up for email updates. I strongly encourage you to sign up and for that link, because there's a lot of information that they have not released yet, particularly with how to report, which will be coming out soon. And if you're on the email update, you should get emails about that. Also on the website, there's great flyers that you can give to your employees to explain how the benefits work and a lot more details. Definitely want to thank you for joining us for this webinar. We're here with any of your questions. And then also just make sure to be ready so that you can start doing the payroll deductions January 1.